Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today we are going to present our first presentation, which is crisis in the Muslim mind. So next is our group members. And then next, what we are going to present in this presentation is first is introduction, and then identify crisis, examples of the crisis, and how the crisis is regarded as a threat to Muslim, and then solutions for the crisis, and then lastly is conclusion. So without further ado, let's move to our first content, which is introduction. So what is crisis in the Muslim mind? So crisis in the Muslim mind explores the historical and intellectual roots of the problem that is affected the Ummah and poses a threat to its identity. So crisis here means that the malaise or the sickness that affects how the Muslim think, learn and view the world. And the intellectual weaknesses is what caused the Muslim Ummah to fall behind in culture, social and development. And what worse is, it can affect the Muslim to lose its own identity, which is to make them no longer think and act beyond the Islamic worldview. And this crisis started when ijtihad is limited to only legal matters, led to blind following, which is taqlid, and causes stagnation of the Muslim mind. So all of this crisis started when ijtihad is no longer used as a tool for broader thinking. Instead, it's only limited to only legal matters, where this led Muslims to follow the old rulings blindly, which is taqlid. And this made Muslims to unable to think critically and made them to unable to deal with the challenges nowadays. And if Muslims had continued using ijtihad and built society on Tawheed, the Ummah could have led a more advanced and ethical civilization. So next, the Muslim Ummah is facing a serious challenges as Western civilization influence and pressure its way of life, beliefs and institutions. So we can see that how Western civilization impact and influence our way of life through the influence in education, lifestyle and media. And Ummah's crisis can be seen in declining of the culture. For example, like how Muslims nowadays follow the Western lifestyle and the widespread LGBT that has been normalized nowadays, and also political deterioration. For example, like the political instability we can see in the across Muslim countries, and also the corruption and bribery and hardships faced by people. For example, like poverty, war that is currently ongoing, and also the inequality that faced by the Muslim nowadays, despite the values and principles in Islam. The crisis that is identified in this presentation is included is crisis in intellectual, crisis of identity, crisis of politics, crisis of Islamic methodology, and crisis between reasons and revelations. So that's all from me, and I'm going to pass to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wanata Shahilda binti Mio Shafizul, matric number 2417432, and I'll be explaining about 5 crises that we have identified in Abu Sulaiman's Crisis in the Muslim Mind. The first one is the crisis in knowledge and intellectual decline. In the past, the Muslim world led in science and thought, but today there is a sharp decline in creativity and innovation, with heavy reliance on Western knowledge and technology. There is also a lack of critical thinking, where many just consume knowledge without questioning, analyzing, or producing new ideas. This weakens our intellectual dependence. The second one is crisis of identity. Many Muslims feel disconnected with their Islamic and cultural roots. There's a confusion about how to balance modernity and tradition, especially with the spread of Western lifestyles and ideologies. Due to colonial history and cultural imitation, some have lost confidence in the Islamic worldview, leading to a weak sense of self and belonging. The third one is the crisis of political and leadership. Abu Sulaiman highlights how today's leaders often lack accountability, justice, and consultation, which are key values central to Islamic governance. Instead, we see corruption, tyranny, and authoritarianism, which leads to weak institutions and public distrust in the political system. Next, we have the crisis of the traditional methodology of Islamic thought. Islamic scholarship has become too literal, ignoring the context and modern realities. Disciplines like fiqh, theology, and ethics are taught separately, causing fragmentation. Also, the decline of ijtihad and over-reliance on taqlid make it difficult for Islamic thought to evolve and respond to modern challenges. Finally, there's a crisis between reason and revelation. Many treat these two as if they are separated, but Abu Sulaiman argues that they should support and harmonize with one another. This false separation has stopped Islamic thought from growing, especially in areas like politics, education, and social reform.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Isa Awani binti Badrunisam and my matrix number 2312880. So today I want to discuss the 5 examples of 5 crises has been faced by the Muslim community or Ummah, which is the first one is crisis of knowledge and technological decline, which means here the significance to Western cultural, educational models, tools, and institutional influences. For instance, the widespread adoption of the Western technology in knowledge and intellectual has been used in Muslim majority countries. Alright, the second example from the crisis identity. So crisis identity, which means here nowadays majority Muslim is facing or experiencing loss of identity because of the cultural and the religious of the Westerns make impact, negative impact of the Muslim because they're easy to get influenced by them. The third example is crisis of methodology. So for the crisis methodology is traditional Islamic through relies heavily on the Quran, which is revelations, and also the Sunnah, which is the Prophet Muhammad traditions. So this methodology is central of Islamic jurisprudence, which is fiqh, which involve interpreting these primary sources to derive legal rulings. So next is the example of the crisis of leaderships and political. So nowadays, the Ummah leadership has struggled to determine their proper approach to bringing the changes to lead by follow the right or the true objective. Because, for example, like a systematic corruptions, the famous one is the bribes or bribery. That always happens in the Muslim majority countries. It makes the trust issue from the public, society, and community because they put trust on their leader. So the leader should be honest what they've done, what they do. Must follow the Islamic, the Sharia compliance, and follow the Quran and Sunnah because we need to achieve barakah for the success in the future. So lastly, the example for the crisis of revelations and religions. So there is a significant conflict between reason and revelations, a serious methodology crisis. Okay, this is the evidence in its interpretations. Religious texts in light of modern science, such as tensions between educations, between creation's narrative and the theory of evolutions.
Now let's look at how the crisis in the Muslim mind poses a threat to Muslims today beyond what we've just discussed earlier. Firstly, we're seeing intellectual paralysis. The Muslim world often imitates old ideas instead of applying critical thinking or ijtihad. This limits innovation and weakens our ability to compete globally. Second, there's a disconnection between reason and revelation. Many people believe you either choose Islam or modern science, but that's not true. Islam encourages us to think deeply, and when we separate reason from revelation, we actually lose the power of both. Third, the political leadership in many Muslim countries fails to lead with integrity or Islamic values. Corruption becomes normal, and this opens the door for foreign influence and also injustice in the society. Fourth, we're facing a methodological crisis. Traditional ways of thinking are not being updated for today's challenges. This makes Islam look outdated to some people, even though its principles are timeless. Finally, there's a growing identity crisis, especially among youth. When Muslims adopt Western lifestyles without a strong Islamic foundation, they tend to feel lost, unsure of who they are or what they stand for. These threats all come from within, but they're made worse by the external pressures of globalization and secularism. To solve this, we must revive our Islamic thinking and leadership based on Tawheed and also critical reflection.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aina Najwa binti Nur Hisam, matrix number of 2415420. I'll be explaining about solution of the crisis. First, we have to reform educational and political sciences system, for example, to seminar, conferences, and curriculum development. It can improve problem-solving skills, regain constructive energies, and abilities to tackle the contemporary issues for the next generation. Next, we have to do Islamization of knowledge, as it emphasizes the importance of integrating Islamic values into the field of knowledge and education. For example, the establishment of research centers and academic departments to develop view of Islamic perspective on various issues. Without Islamic-oriented educational and intellectual foundation, undertaking in economic and communication field will be less value to the Muslim society. Next, establishment of Shura system by founding a consultative system within the governance structures. It is to exchange the ideas in seeking truth and solution to the problem, and majority of the opinion will be the right one. Institution of Shura must search the truth from the revelation, dictates the fitrah and the law of the universe to prevent misunderstanding and injusticeness. Next, reinforce the understanding of unicity, khilafah, and moral responsibility. Strong understanding of these three principles of Islam methodology would lead Ummah to find its way, renew the sources of its energy, and succeed in raising its young according to sound of Islamic methodology. As a result, Muslim mind will find its true direction and be positive and productive. Lastly, we have to reintegrate reason and revelation by strengthening a harmonious relationship between reason and revelation. Revelation provides foundation of Islamic teaching, an unchanging principle of Islam, where reason allows Muslims to adapt, interpret, and apply this principle to current contemporary issues. This step is crucial to ensure the Muslim community not to lag behind with the current passage of the modern time.
And lastly, for the conclusion, we must realize where the Ummah has lost, means that we have to reflect and learn from our past history. And Muslims must be critical thinkers, not easily imitate Western or foreign solutions, means that we have to think deeply in order to get the solutions, rather than just follow the Western solutions. And reviving Islamic social sciences requires an authentic starting point, which free from outdated traditions and ready to build on both Islamic values and modern knowledge. So in order to move forward, we have to revive the Islamic thoughts, especially in social sciences, with open and genuine mindset. And we have to move beyond our outdated traditions and integrate both Islamic values and modern progress in order to move forward. And the enemies of Islam always continue to impose their ideologies, but the Quran will always guide the Ummah. Means that even though the outside forces always try to change our way of life, we must hold tightly in the Quran and Sunnah as our main source of guidance. And lastly, as Allah said in Surah As-Saff ayat 8, they want to extinguish the light of Allah with their mouths, but Allah will purify its light, although the disbelievers dislike it. Means that even though the enemies of Islam will always try to destroy Islam, but Islam will always shine, and Allah will always protect His religion. So next is our references, and that's all from us. Thank you.